Okay, so imagine this. You're working away on your Mac, just totally oblivious. And in the meantime, some kind of digital thief is silently sneaking into your system, siphoning off passwords, banking details.
Even your crypto wallets.
Exactly.
Uh,
All without you even noticing.
yeah.
It's pretty scary stuff.
That's the unsettling reality of something called the Banshee macOS Stealer.
Right, and that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Yeah, and what I think is really fascinating about Banshee is its stealth. It's not just about stealing data. It's about doing it very subtly, like under the radar.
Right, so it's designed to be super difficult to detect.
Extremely difficult.
So, okay, let's unpack this a little bit. We're basing this deep dive on an episode of Technically You, which is a cybersecurity podcast.
Yeah, they always have great information.
Yeah, they really get into the weeds of how this malware works. So our mission today is to kind of understand how Banshee operates, what the risks are, and most importantly, how you can protect yourself.
Yeah, and the first thing to understand about Banshee is that it's designed to blend in seamlessly, with your Mac's normal operations. It disguises itself as like a legitimate application or maybe even a system process.
So it's basically invisible?
Effectively invisible both to you and to your security software.
So it's like a digital chameleon. It just blends into the background, making it almost impossible to spot.
That's a great analogy. I like that. Yeah, it's incredibly sneaky, and that's what makes it so dangerous.
Oh.
Maybe we should break down some of Banshee's tricks.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, so one of the key tactics is it modifies your Mac's startup items.
What does it mean?
So that means that every time you boot up your computer, Banshee launches right alongside your regular programs.
So it maintains persistent access.
Persistent access to your system.
Oh, so even if I restart my Mac, I'm not actually getting rid of it?
Not necessarily, no. It's like a stubborn house guest that just won't leave.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there, right?
It doesn't stop there. No. So once it has access, Banshee starts collecting your data. It could be anything, login credentials, financial details.
Everything.
Pretty much everything. And then it encrypts all that stolen information and sends it off to a remote server that's controlled by the attackers.
So it's like a thief breaking into your house, grabbing all your valuables, and then sending them off to a secret hideout.
Yeah, precisely. It's a sophisticated operation that's designed to steal your sensitive information without you even realizing it.
Right. And to make matters worse, Banshee can exploit something called zero-day vulnerabilities.
Uh-huh.
That sounds ominous. What are those?
Okay, so think of it like this. Imagine that a thief discovers a hidden unlocked door into your house that you didn't even know existed.
Right.
So that's essentially a zero-day vulnerability. It's a flaw in your system that hackers find and exploit before developers even have a chance to patch it.
Oh, so even if my Mac software is up to date, I'd still be vulnerable.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
That's why staying informed and taking those proactive steps to protect yourself is absolutely crucial.
Okay, that's concerning. But before we delve into all that, I'm curious. How was Banshee discovered in the first place? If it's so good at hiding, how did anyone even find it?
That's a good question. So the credit goes to cybersecurity researchers who are constantly monitoring these dark web forums and underground marketplaces.
So these are like digital back alleys where hackers buy and sell stolen data and malware and exploits.
Exactly. It's in these shadowy corners of the internet that the first signs of Banshee emerged.
So it's like digital detectives, tracking down cyber criminals in the dark underbelly of the internet.
Yeah, it kind of is.
That's both fascinating and a bit frightening.
It is, yeah. It's a constant cat and mouse game between security researchers and cyber criminals.
And in the case of Banshee, it seems like this malware managed to stay under the radar for a while before it was actually detected.
Yeah, which is really worrying.
Right, so it highlights how important that proactive threat hunting and continuous monitoring is, even if you think your system is secure.
You really can't be too careful these days.
You really can't. It makes you realize how important cybersecurity really is. Okay, but let's shift gears for a second and talk about the potential consequences of actually getting infected with Banshee. What are the real risks here?
Oh, the risks are very real, and they can be devastating. So, Banshee could steal your passwords, drain your bank accounts.
Empty your crypto wallets?
Yep, all of that. It's a direct path to identity theft and financial fraud.
And it's not just personal finances at stake, right?
Yeah.
What about businesses or organizations that might be targeted?
Absolutely. So imagine like a company's sensitive data or financial records or even trade secrets falling into the wrong hands.
Yeah, the repercussions could be enormous.
Yeah, you could have financial losses, legal issues, damage to their reputation.
It's incredible to think about how much we rely on our computers every day and how vulnerable we are without even realizing it.
It's true.
So let's move on to prevention. What practical steps can we take to avoid becoming a victim of this digital thief?
Yeah, so the good news is there are some practical steps you can take to minimize your risk. The first, and probably the most important, is to keep your macOS updated.
Okay, that makes sense. But why are updates so crucial when it comes to security?
Well, software updates often include security patches,
Oh.
and these address newly discovered vulnerabilities.
Like those zero-day exploits we talked about.
Exactly. So think of it like reinforcing the weak spots in your defenses.
Hmm.
So by staying updated, you're making it much harder for malware like Banshee to find a way in.
So it's not just about getting the latest features, it's about plugging those security holes.
Uh-huh.
Got it. What else can we do?
Another essential tip is to be very careful about where you download software from.
Okay.
So always stick to trusted sources like the official Mac App Store or, reputable developers.
Right.
And avoid downloading from untrusted websites or third-party app stores because they could be distributing malware disguised as legitimate software.
That's a good point. I mean, we wouldn't buy food from a sketchy street vendor, so why download software from questionable sources? But are there any, built-in security features on macOS that can help protect us?
Yes, actually, macOS has a feature called Gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper.
Uh-huh. And it acts as a first line of defense against potentially harmful software.
Okay.
So it's designed to block applications that haven't been digitally signed and verified by Apple.
So it's like a digital bouncer checking IDs at the door to my Mac.
Exactly. Enabling Gatekeeper adds an extra layer of protection by preventing the installation of unsigned or unverified software.
Which could include malware like Banshee.
Precisely.
Okay. I'm definitely making sure that Gatekeeper is turned on after this. But even with all these precautions, is there anything else we should consider?
Absolutely. Investing in a good, reputable antivirus software specifically designed for macOS is another crucial step.
Okay.
So these programs can scan your system for known malware, including variants like Banshee, and remove them before they can do any damage.
So it's like having a digital security guard patrolling my system, keeping an eye out for any signs of trouble.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And remember, no system is 100% foolproof, especially with the constant evolution of these threats like zero-day exploits.
Right.
So antivirus software provides an added layer of protection.
Okay.
It acts as a safety net to catch anything that might slip through the cracks.
That's a really good point. But beyond software and settings, what about our own behavior? Are there any common pitfalls we should be aware of?
Well, one of the most common ways that malware spreads is through something called phishing attacks.
Right.
And these involve deceptive emails or messages that try to trick you into clicking on malicious links or downloading infected attachments.
Oh, yeah.
So always be wary of emails from unknown senders, especially those that seem too good to be true or, create a sense of urgency.
Right, like those "you've won $1 million" emails that we all know are fake.
Exactly.
But what if I accidentally click on something suspicious or I think my Mac might already be infected? What should I do?
That's a great question. And it's really important to have a plan of action, even if you've taken all the preventative measures. So first and foremost, if you suspect that your Mac might be infected, immediately disconnect from the internet.
Why is that so important?
Well, disconnecting from the internet will prevent the malware from communicating with its command and control server.
Okay.
And that could potentially stop it from stealing more data or receiving further instructions from the attackers.
So it's like cutting off its lifeline.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
So what's the next step?
Once you're offline, the next crucial step is to run a full malware scan using your trusted antivirus software.
Okay.
This will thoroughly check your system for any signs of Banshee or other malicious programs and attempt to remove them.
So it's like calling in the digital cleaning crew to scrub my system from top to bottom.
Exactly. But even if the scan removes the malware, it's vital to take additional steps to secure your accounts. You should change all your passwords, and I mean all of them, on a clean device.
Why is it so important to use a clean device for this? Well, if your Mac is infected, changing your passwords on that same device could allow the malware to capture the new passwords as you type them in.
Ah, so it's like moving to a new safe house before changing the locks.
Exactly.
Makes sense. But wait, there's more, right? I remember you mentioning something called two-factor authentication.
Yes. What is that? So enabling two-factor authentication or 2FA on all your important accounts adds an extra layer of security by requiring you to enter a unique code from your phone or a separate device in addition to your password.
So even if someone steals my password, they still can't access my account without that second code.
Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
powerful way to prevent unauthorized access, even if your credentials have been compromised.
Wow, this is all so helpful. Are there any other steps we should consider?
Well, if you've tried all of these steps and you're still having trouble removing the malware or you suspect your system is still compromised, don't hesitate to seek professional help.
Okay.
There are cybersecurity experts who specialize in malware removal, and they can help you clean up your Mac and restore your peace of mind.
That's reassuring to know. It's like calling in the digital SWAT team for backup.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. What are the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
Well, the Banshee macOS Stealer is a genuine and serious threat. But by understanding how it works and taking the right precautions, we can significantly reduce our risk.
Right.
So staying informed, keeping our systems updated, and being cautious about our online behavior are our best defenses.
It's amazing how much we've learned from just one cybersecurity podcast episode. It's like gaining a whole new level of awareness about the digital world and how to protect ourselves.
I agree.
It's not just about protecting ourselves, but also about sharing this information with others,
Yeah.
especially friends and family who might not be as tech savvy.
Right.
We need to spread awareness and help each other stay safe in this digital age.
I like that sharing is caring, especially when it comes to cybersecurity.
Exactly. But before we wrap up, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
We've discussed, the technical side of Banshee, but what about the human element? Who are the people behind these attacks and what motivates them?
Yeah, that's a question that comes up a lot, and it's a complex one.
Yeah.
So in the world of cybercrime, you have a wide spectrum of actors,
Okay.
from, lone wolf hackers to sophisticated organized crime groups.
Right.
And some are driven purely by financial gain,
Okay.
while others might have political or ideological motives.
So it's not always about stealing money.
Not necessarily, no. Sometimes it's about disrupting services or stealing sensitive data to gain a competitive advantage, or even just wreaking havoc for the sake of it.
It's a little unsettling to think about the different motives that might be at play,
It is, yeah.
but it also highlights how important it is to be vigilant and protect ourselves, regardless of who might be targeting us.
Absolutely. And it's not just individuals. Governments and nation states are also increasingly involved in cyber espionage and attacks.
Right.
So the lines are blurring and the threat landscape is constantly evolving.
It sounds like a digital Wild West out there.
Yeah, it kind of is.
But let's bring it back to Banshee. Are there any specific groups or individuals that have been linked to this particular malware?
So while attributing cyber attacks to specific actors can be incredibly difficult, there have been some interesting developments in the case of Banshee.
Okay.
So remember those dark web forums that we mentioned earlier?
Uh-huh.
Well, cybersecurity researchers have been analyzing the conversations and transactions in those underground marketplaces.
To try and piece together the puzzle.
Exactly.
So they're like digital detectives sifting through clues in the darkest corners of the internet.
Yeah, and based on their analysis, it seems like there's a growing belief that a group known as Crimson Shadow might be behind the development and distribution of Banshee.
Crimson Shadow. That sounds like something out of the spy movie. What do we know about them?
Well, details are still emerging, but Crimson Shadow appears to be a highly skilled and organized group that focuses on developing and selling sophisticated malware, including ransomware spyware, and now it seems stealers like Banshee.
So they're like digital arms dealers providing the tools for cybercrime.
In a way, yes. And what makes Crimson Shadow particularly concerning is their apparent willingness to collaborate with other cybercriminal groups.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so essentially creating a network of bad actors with access to a wide range of tools and expertise.
So it's like a cybercrime supergroup with different gangs joining forces.
It's a disturbing trend, and it really emphasizes the growing sophistication and interconnectedness of the cybercriminal world.
Knowing all this about Banshee, its capabilities, and the potential players involved, what's the most important message you want our listeners to take away from this?
Well, I think the key message is that cybersecurity is no longer just a technical issue. It's a personal responsibility. We all have a role to play in protecting ourselves and our data in the digital age.
I couldn't agree more. It's like wearing a seatbelt in a car. It's a simple action that can make a huge difference in protecting ourselves from harm.
Exactly. And just like we lock our doors and windows at night, we need to develop good digital hygiene habits to safeguard our online lives.
Love that analogy.
Yeah.
So what are some practical steps that our listeners can take to strengthen their digital defenses beyond the technical measures we've already discussed?
So one of the most effective things you can do is stay informed about the latest threats and trends in cybersecurity. There are many reputable resources available online,
Okay.
including websites, blogs, and podcasts like this one.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power, and the more we understand about the threats we face, the better equipped we are to defend against them. What else can we do?
Another crucial step is to be mindful of our online behavior.
Great.
So think before you click on links, download attachments, or provide personal information online.
Okay.
Always double check the source and be wary of anything that seems suspicious or too good to be true.
So it's about being a bit more skeptical and cautious in our digital interactions.
Precisely. And if you're ever unsure about something, don't hesitate to ask for help. There are many people and resources available to assist you, from tech-savvy friends and family members to professional cybersecurity experts.
That's reassuring to know. It's like we don't have to navigate this complex digital landscape alone.
Right.
But what about those who might feel overwhelmed or intimidated by the sheer scale of the cyber threat? What would you say to them?
Well, I understand that feeling overwhelmed is natural, but it's important not to let fear paralyze us. Every small step we take to improve our cybersecurity posture makes a difference.
It's like building a brick wall. Each brick might seem insignificant on its own, but together they create a strong and resilient barrier.
Exactly. And remember, cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination. We're all constantly learning and adapting to this ever-evolving threat landscape.
That's a great point. It's not about being perfect. It's about being proactive and continuously improving our defenses. But before we get too philosophical, let's bring it back to the practical. Are there any specific tools or resources you'd recommend to our listeners?
Absolutely. One resource I highly recommend is the website of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA.
CISA, what do they do?
So CISA is a U.S. government agency that offers a wealth of information and guidance on cybersecurity for individuals, businesses, and organizations.
Oh, okay.
And their website has tips on everything from creating strong passwords to recognizing phishing scams to responding to cyber attacks.
So they're like a one-stop shop for all things cybersecurity.
In many ways, yes. And it's a great starting point for anyone looking to learn more about protecting themselves online.
I'm definitely checking out their website after this. Any other recommendations?
Yeah. Another excellent resource is the Electronic Frontier Foundation, or EFF.
EFF?
What's that? So they're a nonprofit organization that advocates for digital privacy and security rights.
Okay, so what kind of resources do they offer?
Well, the EFF's website has a ton of valuable information on topics like online privacy surveillance and encryption. They also provide practical guides on using privacy-enhancing tools and technologies to protect your data.
So they're like a digital rights advocacy group that also provides practical tools and advice.
Exactly. And they're a great resource for anyone who wants to learn more about the broader implications of cybersecurity and digital privacy.
This is all incredibly helpful. But with so many resources available, it can be challenging to know where to start. Do you have any advice for our listeners on how to navigate this information overload?
Yeah, my advice would be to start small and focus on building good habits over time. You don't have to become a cybersecurity expert overnight.
So it's about taking small, manageable steps rather than trying to do everything at once.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So start by implementing a few simple security measures like creating strong passwords, enabling two-factor authentication, and being cautious about what you click on.
Right.
And then as you become more comfortable, you can gradually add more layers of protection.
It's like training for a marathon.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect to run 26 miles on your first day. You start with shorter distances and gradually build up your stamina.
That's a great analogy. And just like with physical fitness, consistency is key when it comes to cybersecurity.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the world of Banshee and the broader cybersecurity landscape. We've learned about the malware's stealthy tactics, the potential consequences of an attack, and most importantly, the steps that we can take to stay safe.
I agree. And I think it's really important to stress that this is just the tip of the iceberg. The world of cybersecurity is vast and complex, but by understanding the fundamentals and remaining vigilant, we can all navigate it more safely and confidently.
Absolutely. So to our listeners, a final call to action: share this information with your friends, family, and colleagues. Let's create a ripple effect of cybersecurity awareness and help each other stay ahead in this ever-evolving digital world.
Well said. And remember, the best defense is a good offense. By being proactive and informed, we can all contribute to a safer and more secure digital future.
Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and keep exploring the fascinating world of knowledge with The Deep Dive. See ya. Bye.